Hello and welcome back to another one of my end of year wrap up videos. So this one is a little bit different, but before I get into that, I am so excited to tell you guys that I have officially started my book club over on Fable. So I would love if you would join us. It is going to be, for now at least, mainly like contemporary fiction. However, there's a really cool feature that I plan to use where I can do a poll so I can see what genres you guys want to read. Now, I'll say up front, we're not reading fantasy or like spicy romance, but I'm fine with a rom-com. I'm fine with a little sci-fi. So I also would love to take book suggestions, so I will definitely make a little chat for that where you can suggest books. I want this to be for all of us. This isn't like a dictatorship. So I'm really excited about that. I will link it in the description box below, and please join us over there. If you haven't used Fable yet, I understand that a lot of people might not want to make the switch or whatever, but it's a really cool feature on Fable, the book club kind of feature over there. So it's definitely worth making an account, even if that's all you use it for. It is well worth it. It's free, and I really hope will join me over there. For our first month, I have picked A Great Country by Shilpi Somaya Gowda. So I really hope you will join me over there for the discussion. And if this is a book you already read, you can still participate and leave your thoughts. Please join me over there. I am so excited. So 2024 was a really awesome year for publishing. I feel like I read so many books that are like totally new favorites. I barely had any 2-star or lower. I actually was making my list for like my least favorite books of the year, and like I was trying to do top 10, but it was tricky because there weren't really that many that I really didn't like. The other ones I just DNF'd, so it's always a little tricky to make that. But I kind of picked this list to be books that are either just underrated or I don't think they got enough hype that came out this year. There's a lot of books that come out every year, and so it's hard to give like time and marketing to every one of them, but I think all of these need a little more attention, and so I will say these are books you might have missed in 2024. So the first book that I think was overlooked in 2024 is one I read recently, the Sing Sing Files by Dan Slepian. So this is nonfiction, and it is about this author, and he is a Dateline producer for NBC. And back in 2002, he got an email from this homicide detective in the Bronx saying that there were 2 men in prison for life that he knows did not commit the crimes they were accused of because he knows who actually did it. So kind of crazy. So he goes down this, rabbit hole to try to find out what really happened and try to get them free, which in turn brings him to several other cases where these men are claiming their innocence, and he's trying to kind of figure out, did this happen? How did this happen? Why are there so many people in prison that don't belong there? And this was just so fascinating. It was really sad and kind of horrifying at the way our justice system is not very just a lot of the time. There's so much red tape to deal with, and the prosecutors are overworked, the public defenders are overworked, and a lot of the folks that are going into prison that don't deserve to be there are very poor and can't afford fancy lawyers to get them off. And it was just a really eye-opening look at like the justice system and how this country, America, is just not good to its people. And yeah, not to be spoilery or anything, but like there are cases in here where there's clear and convincing evidence that their conviction should be overturned, and they're just like, no. It's just wild that people have that kind of power. So this was one that I will never forget, and I definitely think is worth reading if you are a nonfiction reader, if you like true crime. I mean, this is one that you don't have to feel weird about reading. The next book I think got underhyped is Memorials by Richard Chismar. This one I read relatively recently as well. So this is set in 1983, and it follows this group of college students who are doing a project where they it's a documentary about roadside memorials. All three of them have suffered a great loss in their lives. They're kind of just documenting, interview people like in the towns of like, okay, so did you know this person this memorial was for? Who was it for? You know, just really getting the background, which to be honest, I would watch that documentary. But they're kind of asking some tough questions. There's kind of some weird stuff that starts, and they stumble upon some things that someone didn't want them to see. So this was just a really, really cool story that really sucked me in from the first page. I loved the kind of like documentary side of things because some of it is written like kind of as a script. And I loved the Appalachian setting. Gave really creepy vibes being like so far out into the wilderness. And I really think this handled the subject of grief well. And I consider myself something of an expert now, so I really enjoyed how that was addressed and how it really can affect everyone differently. This is a pretty scary book, so if you're not into horror, I don't think I would recommend it, but I do think that it did not get the hype it deserved when it came out. The next one was There Is No Ethan by Anna Akbari. This was wild. I listened to the audiobook on this one, and it was like listening to someone else's gossip, which was just such a blast. So this is basically written by this girl who was catfished, and in the process finds two other women that were catfished by the same guy, and they catch him out, and he's still lying to them. They all think he's in love with them. He told them all about each other, but like referring to them as exes. And so, like, it was just crazy. I was, like, absolutely loving this. If you like the TV show Catfish, and if you just like gossip, but staying out of the gossip, just hearing it, this is a book you will love because I could not stop. Another one that I literally don't think I've seen anyone talking about is I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom by Jason Pargin? I don't know. This is just a very simple kind of concept, and this book was wild. Wild in the sense that, like, you did not know what was going on, and you were just, like, going for the ride because it was crazy. I'm just gonna read you the, like, short little synopsis because it's kind of better than I could explain it. Outside Los Angeles, a driver pulls up to find a young woman sitting on a large black box. She offers him $200,000 cash to transport her and that box across the country to Washington, D.C., but there are rules. He cannot look inside the box. He cannot ask questions. He cannot tell anyone. They must leave immediately. He must leave all trackable devices behind. As these eccentric misfits hit the road, rumors spread on social media that the box is part of a carefully orchestrated terror attack intended to plunge the USA into civil war. The truth promises to be even stranger and may change how you see the world. Yes, the truth was even stranger. So this is definitely an exercise in how like social media can really take something so small and like just blow it out of proportion. And yeah, this book was hilarious. It was weird. It was exciting and fast-paced. Like, it was so good. The next one is Pearce Oysters by Jocelyn Heckax. This was a really great, just like family drama, which I absolutely love. Contemporary, for the most part, fiction. And yeah, it was just really, really interesting. So this follows a man who lives in Louisiana, and he owns an oyster farm, and it's like been a family business for a long time. And then the BP oil spill happens, and things are getting very tight. Things are getting bad with the business because they can't sell oysters if they can't farm oysters. He calls his brother, who is like a partial owner of the business, and is like, you need to come here and help. Now, the brother is kind of just always doing something. He's a wanderer, he's never really stable, and he doesn't want to come back to Louisiana to help, but he ends up doing it. And so it's kind of about the relationship between these two brothers and how they act in like the face of adversity, like really bad adversity. So I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a sweet and like very interesting story. I did really enjoy how much it touched on like the environment and how not taking care of the environment has just the craziest ramifications, and like we all need to be concerned about it. So this was one that I definitely recommend picking up if you tend to like a family focused drama. The next one is one you will hear me talk about again because it is one of my favorite books of the year, and that is I Hope This Finds You Well by Natalie Sue. This was so great. It was a little bit of everything and I just adored it. So this is about a woman named Jolene who works in an office. She's not very well liked by her coworkers. She just kind of shows up and does her job and goes home, which is all that should be asked of us at any job. But nevertheless, she's not super friendly or anything like that. And when she writes emails to people in her office, she likes to write what she really wants to say below her like email signature, and then she makes the font white so they can't actually see it. So as you may have guessed, one time she doesn't change the font. So the company goes to put restrictions on her email account, but instead actually grants her access to the email accounts of the entire office. So she can see what other people are saying. She can see what they're saying about her. She can see it all. And she uses this to her advantage to kind of get ahead and, you know, bring her office rival down a notch, and it goes from there. I don't work in an office, and my only office experience was for about 9 months, like almost 10 years ago. But I totally could feel like the office culture in this book. It was funny. There is a really sweet romance that goes on, a really believable romance, which is like kind of the only kind of romance I like. And it was funny, it was light, and I feel like I just didn't hear about it from anyone else. Like I said, one of my favorites of the year. The next one is Rainbow Black by Maggie Thrash. You've probably heard me talk about this. I definitely made a huge deal of this when I first read it because it just blew my mind. This is set in the early 90s. When the story begins. This is about a 13-year-old girl named Lacey who lives in New Hampshire on her parents' like land. They have lots of space and they run a daycare. So once the satanic panic hits, her parents are arrested. They're accused of horrific things and it's bad. So she kind of ends up forming a friendship with this other child in her area, and ends up making a particular decision that like impacts her life forever. And so then we fast forward to the present day, and it's kind of like these decisions catch up to her. This book kept me on my toes. The chapters were really short, which is always something we love. It was super queer, so we love the inclusion, the diversity. And it was just like a story that I feel like I'd never read one like this before. It just took so many different kind of like genres and like threw them all together. There was definite horror, there was some romance, there was some mystery. It was so good. I feel like I didn't hear much about this one. I almost thought that this book came out before 2024, but I guess it did come out in 2024. I did look that up. But because I don't know how this didn't get hype, because I have a paperback copy, and so I was like, maybe it came out first in hardcover, and that's why it had a bigger release when it originally, but no, it came out in paperback, and it is so underrated. And the last one on this list that I think was overlooked in 2024 is Ellipses by Vanessa Lawrence. So this is best described as The Devil Wears Prada, but make it lesbian and make it cosmetics. It's following this girl who is at a weird place in her life, and she's just kind of happens to stumble upon this job with this high-powered cosmetics mogul, and how she gets just sucked into this world at the expense of all the other relationships in her life, and it becomes like a really codependent relationship, and I just like absolutely loved it. There is a lot of discussion about how a lot of bosses in this day and age really expect a lot from their employees, and how that work-life balance just like doesn't seem to exist in a lot of workplaces, and how it can get really toxic. So If that sounds at all interesting to you, I highly recommend this one. So those are my top 8 books that I think you might have missed this year. There were just so many to choose from, and these 8 just didn't get the attention they deserved. So I hope that you find one of these that you could possibly enjoy, and I would love to know what book you think did not get enough hype this year. I feel like there's got to be more out there. I would love to know what you think deserved more. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!